Now that I've actually played Elden Ring, I can take the time to really go into the nitty-gritty as to why this game is objectively a lesser experience to Breath of the Wild. This is an issue that's been kind of plaguing the FromSoftware community since Dark Souls came out, is that this idea that FromSoftware is somehow better at Nintendo at this kind of like fantasy thing, right? It's obviously not true. It's completely off base. It's ridiculous. But that has been a reoccurring thing for the past decade. It isn't new. It isn't like an original argument like Dark Souls is what Zelda should be. It's a joke, essentially. And I've talked at length about this when it comes to like the original Dark Souls in particular, how it fails to really recapture the challenge or difficulty or heart of the first two Zelda games, right? Like I have been a very big advocate of the idea that FromSoftware titles are very overrated to the point where I would honestly say they're probably the most overrated titles out there today, right? Like, a generation ago we had the Mass Effects and the Skyrims and the Last of Us. Like this gen, we have like FromSoftware. FromSoftware is the thing that gamers use to go after Nintendo and criticize them and pretend that uh, uh, that their game is better than ours, essentially. This is the game that they weaponize against Nintendo properties, right? Back in the day they would use cutscenes in Jack, right? They would use graphics, they would use like FMV, they would use like the pre-rendered cutscenes. Like they would come up with all these excuses as to why their games were better than Nintendo's, but right now the idea is that like FromSoftware makes better fantasy games, that they make better games, period. And of course, it's not true. It's ridiculous. One of the things that stuck out to me when I was playing Elden Ring for the first time is how bad it looks. Right now, does it look better than Dark Souls? Yes, but Dark Souls is complete trash to begin with. Right, right. It didn't look good. It was low res. Like it wasn't super high budget. It was a lower budget game, right? And Elden Ring is just the same kind of thing, right? It is open world. It has this big empty like field you can walk over. There are guys walking back and forth, but um, it doesn't amount to much, right? Like like it's just Dark Souls all over again. There is no evolution. There is no growth. There is no there's nothing, right? So I go out into the world of FromSoftware. I got into the world of Elden Ring, and I realized that this game does not look as good as Breath of the Wild, right? This game had 5 years after Breath of the Wild came out to innovate on it, to do something new and interesting, to put out like some good new like twist on the formula, to do something different. Nope, it's just walk around an empty field, fight some guys, and become more powerful to fight some more guys, right? Like again, it's just Dark Souls all over again. You're just walking around, like trying to find things, trying to find NPCs, trying to accomplish something that you don't have the slightest clue. Like it is complete nonsense when you compare it to Breath of the Wild, which gives you a lot more direction, but also gives you a lot more freedom, right? Breath of the Wild lets you explore the world at your leisure, right? Do you want to do the shrines first? Do you want to do like find some weapons? Do you want to like go straight to the final boss? Like again, it's all up to you, and it's way, way, way better handled than Elden Ring does. Elden Ring did it. Like, if anything, Elden Ring is just a cheap copy of what Breath of the Wild tried to do. You have the similar setup of where like you step out into the open field and then you realize that like this is all there is. Like it's unbelievable. But pure superficial levels here. Like the thing that really got me, and I do think this really needs to be like addressed more than anything. Breath of the Wild does visually look better than Elden Ring. Now, the thing that really got me about this is that like this is the thing that everybody kind of insisted on, right? Like, oh, Elden Ring looks way better if you play it on a gaming PC at max resolution and like it's a newer game. Of course it looks better. Like people have been like repeating that tired old line for so long that they'll do it even when it's no longer true, or not that it was ever true to begin with, but like even though it's obviously not true, they'll still like use that tired line that their games look better than Nintendo games when that is not and never has been true. And if anything, honestly, I'm being completely serious here. Breath of the Wild looks better than Elden Ring, but I also think Wind Waker looks better than Elden Ring. A game that came out 20 years before has better animations, more vibrant colors, a better plot, a better combat system, better dungeon design, better exploration mechanics. Like Wind Waker is just better all around than Elden Ring, right? Wind Waker looks better than Elden Ring. It has a better, unique art style. And this is the thing that, like, I think people really don't appreciate about Nintendo games is that, like, they are the premier stylized visual, uh, premier stylized visuals video game development company now, right? They are the company that can put out something that looks visually distinct and interesting. They can put out Splatoon, Fire Emblem, Mario, Zelda, Metroid, and all have them like look and play completely differently from one another. As opposed to FromSoftware, who have been doing the same thing over and over and over again, to the point where people get upset if they deviate from the formula even a little bit with Sekiro, right? Like Elden Ring doesn't look good. Like you can put both Breath of the Wild and Elden Ring side by side, and you can clearly see that Breath of the Wild runs better. There's more going on. There's more involved combat scenarios. There's better enemy design, better enemy AI, right? Better horse combat. Twilight Princess had better horse combat than Elden Ring, right? And again, this is all stuff that like people aren't really talking about, but it couldn't be more obvious that Elden Ring just fell way short of what people were expecting from it. And it's weird to me to continue seeing just how many people are advocating for this. Like, say that like Elden Ring is not only like on par with Zelda, it's way better. That's been something we've been seeing a lot since Tears of the Kingdom came out, and even a little bit before. Like Nintendo's scared of FromSoftware, but no, that couldn't be more obviously untrue. Like, what would Nintendo be scared of? Like, FromSoftware is a one-trick pony studio that can only make the same game over and over and over again. And honestly, with Elden Ring, it's not even a good take on the formula. Like, honestly, playing it, I honestly get the impression that, like, yeah, Dark Souls 1 is better, Dark Souls 2 is better. I think Dark Souls 3 might be better. Like, why exactly would why exactly are so many people like obsessed with this idea of presenting Elden Ring or FromSoft in general as being better than the Zelda franchise? It's because they are desperate, depraved fanboys, right? They need FromSoft to do well. They need to justify their high-end PC purchases. They need to justify like the existence of other gaming hardware. They need to justify like why they're not excited about whatever Nintendo is doing. Like, oh, I like Elden Ring more. Okay, even if you did like Elden Ring, even if it was a good game, like it's 2 years old. It's time to move on. You should have played Zelda. You should have played Mario Wonder. You should be excited for Metroid Prime 4. Like you should be excited about all the great games on Nintendo hardware that are better than Elden Ring, right? There's nothing wrong with admitting that there are games better than your favorite thing.